Welcome to another Coil Chat. Today, I want to talk about the Karen Reed case, some updates that are going on, and then talk about how she is going to be doing another trial here coming up in the next couple weeks, which I'm sure we will follow and you will get all the updates on my page. Karen Reed's case has garnered significant attention due to its complex circumstances and the involvement of law enforcement personnel. So we're going to talk about the outline and then talk about the latest developments as of today. So if you don't know, the incident happened in January 29th, 2022. And the victim was Karen's boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who was a Boston police officer. Now, Karen Reed is a financial analyst and an adjunct professor. And the allegations were that they alleged they both had a night of drinking and Karen struck her boyfriend John with her SUV and left him to die in the snow. Her defense is that she claims she's innocent. She's asserting that John was killed inside the home that they were at, which was his friend Brian Albert's house, who was a fellow officer, and that she's being framed for the crime. She has maintained all along that this was a cover-up because he was a Boston police officer, that it was involved with other Boston police officers, and therefore she was being framed because of this. Now, the initial legal proceedings started with a trial in April 2023, and it was a long trial. It concluded in July of 2024 with a mistrial due to a hung jury. Now, I want to talk about that because she was being charged with murder, and then she was being charged with involuntary manslaughter. The jury actually found her not guilty for murder, but then there was a hung jury for involuntary manslaughter. They could not come to consensus, meaning all of the juries need to either find that she was guilty or that she was not guilty. And they were just stuck. The judge made him go back and deliberate time and time again. And after several days of them not being able to come to consensus, he finally found that it was a mistrial because of a hung jury. There has been a lot of controversy over the fact, well, she was found not guilty of murder, so she shouldn't be able to be tried again for murder. The problem is they were found to be a hung jury on all counts because they could not come to a consensus on all the counts. So she is going to be able to be tried again for murder and involuntary manslaughter. I know it seems wrong because we have this, this constitutional right to not be charged or not double jeopardy. But in this circumstance, that's how Boston proceedings worked. And because she was not able to get a consensus on all the charges, she's going to be charged again and she's going to be tried again, which that trial is coming up fairly soon. Now, in April 4th, 2025, Karen's legal team filed an emergency petition with the U.S. Supreme Court seeking to halt the retrial on the double jeopardy grounds. So they are now arguing that the jury in the first trial had reached that unanimous not guilty decision on certain charges, which were not formally announced. Because of that, they are waiting to see if the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, will hear that petition. The Boston Supreme Court already found that it wasn't double jeopardy, she can be tried. But then they asked for a certiorari for the U.S. Supreme Court to decide that. And that's what we're talking about, why a lot of people are frustrated that she was found not guilty on the murder charge. Why is she able to be charged again? That's going to be heard. Only about 1% of all cases that are asked to be heard by the Supreme Court are heard. So there is no promise that they are going to do that. And jury selection is started as of right now. So they're trying to get a jury, and there are 4 more jurors that are needed to complete the panel. So it's been a long process to try to get a jury panel that they believe is going to be impartial, is going to be able to listen to the case, and they're going to be able to start the case. The defense, Karen's defense, have added a new attorney. Her name's Victoria George. She's a civil attorney and a former alternate juror from the initial trial. She's joined Reed's defense team for the retrial, offering unique insights from her previous involvement. I thought that was a little interesting because I don't know if that would be a conflict. Obviously, the prosecution might determine that's a conflict, but if she was an alternate juror, she was able to sit there and listen to the entire trial, and she would have been able to listen to the insights. Now, she wouldn't have been able to deliberate with the jurors because she was not picked as a final juror, but she would have heard the entire case. So I guess she's an attorney, and she's going to come on and she's going to give some insight into helping the defense team. I thought that was really, really interesting. The other update is that there is some really contentious evidence. The tail light fragments from the car they are alleging are fragments from Karen's vehicle near the scene. That is very contentious because there's forensic findings that are challenging this and saying that they were planted there, or they don't have, the chain of command was wrong, and therefore the tail light fragment should not be evidence that is relied heavily on. There's also forensic findings. The defense is challenging the interpretations of injuries and other forensic evidence, proposing alternate scenarios for John's death. I mean, I've heard that he died of a dog attack. Those kind of injuries you would be able, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of information. I think they're really going to hone in on this contentious evidence of the tail light and the forensic findings. This new case is going to be just crazy. If the Supreme Court decides to hear the petition, then there'll probably be a stay on the proceedings below. And if they deny it, then the proceedings are going to go forward like they're doing. And we are going to have it all here to talk about what's going on, because this has just been one of those cases that's just rocked the entire. And if you want to think about it, there was another very, very highly contentious case, the Menendez brothers, where they were found not guilty twice, or there was a mistrial twice, and their third time the prosecutors were finally able to get a guilty plea. But in that third trial, the judge declined to allow a lot of the evidence in that had previously been let in. So it's going to be interesting if this judge now does not allow some evidence that was allowed in the beginning to either help the defense or help the prosecution. It's going to be a wild ride. So put your questions below. You might get a video about it. And that's another week of Coil Chat.